Okay, good morning. Today's day 16 of these videos to talk about a day or thought in the life of schizophrenic. And schizophrenia can be chalked up to high technology groups or the underworld engaged in bizarre psychological warfare on the subject, who, when he describes what's going on with him, gets determined that he is mentally ill or schizophrenic, but he's just describing the behavior of crazy groups in our society. I guess this will segue into, I had talked about the Soccoro incident. I was reading in my book, a UFO book, and they were talking about the Soccoro incident, which was a UFO encounter, and it's also known as the Zamora incident because the incident took place at eyewitness account by a police officer named Lonnie Zamora, and he spotted a UFO landing and taking off in New Mexico, and it spooked him, and he was a well-renowned person in his community, and it's one of the best cases of an eyewitness account where they couldn't really discredit the witness like they do with schizophrenia, where they discredit the witness to crime. And yeah, so that was Lonnie Zamora is the name of that incident, and I learned about it on like Ancient Aliens and stuff like that, and so I'm now reading about it. And what's interesting about Zamora is it's a kind of like Gamora from Marvel, the woman in Marvel who Peter Quill has a romantic interest in. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe they're trying to say something there, and maybe they got the name Gamora off of that. So, okay. I feel like I'm caught in between a lot of times, two polarities in society where you have I'm reading in my book uh about people who are kind of obsessed with achievement and how kids in our society are now being really grilled and programmed to see achievement, and it's a huge thing that I'm reading about in my book called Never Enough. And I realize that there's it's kind of nice to try to achieve things, but I'm caught between that polarity on the one side, and then on the other side you have the people that are like disregard everything and bring out the guillotines, and they're on the other side, and I feel like I'm somewhere in between these people. I don't want to guillotine anybody. I don't want to live a life where all I care about is achievement. And so I guess this is where I am here in the middle. And I think there's a lot of us in the middle of these things, and uh, maybe it all makes some sort of symphony if you look at it that way or whatever. I don't know, but sometimes I think that people are a little bit insane when they're in these two polarities or extremes. And it's just like, and sometimes the extremes, it's like, like the Ron Paul thing and the Dennis Kucinich thing, where like they're on the extremes, and then they kind of it wraps around, and they're together. And so I'm not trying to dismiss Ron Paul or Dennis Kucinich as like extremists, but a little bit Ron Paul wants there to be like no real social service sector of the government. So I think that's a little extreme when you look at our society. Uh, okay, so I guess I'll switch topics now, and we'll talk about Da Vinci. We saw the Leonardo Da Vinci exhibit at the Science Museum yesterday. We actually did not go to the floats. We switched course because we went to the floats last year, so we thought we'd have to do the same thing every year. So this year we went to see the Science Museum and the Da Vinci exhibit, and I thought it was very interesting. Particular things I liked were the self-propelled cart. It was almost like a precursor to the car. That was pretty cool for him to think of something like that way back when he thought of it. And the next one was the air screw. That one was pretty cool. They say that one is like supposedly like a helicopter, and I don't know. It's like the screw goes around and it supposedly elevates you and stuff. It makes you fly. And the other one I really liked was the hydraulic saw. I thought that one was pretty cool. That's where he uses water power to to power a saw cutting through a log. So those were the three that were in particular I liked, but obviously all of them were incredible. And the guy was just a crazy, amazing genius. And I came home and I immediately remembered, like, oh, there was an Ancient Aliens episode on uh, Da Vinci. So I started watching that a little bit. And in that episode, it talks about his mirror writing, where he writes left, right to left, backwards, like in a mirror. And he did that apparently to keep the Catholic Church or particular church officials from spying on him and uh, knowing what he was up to. And it was to protect himself and stuff and protect his work from it being destroyed or whatever. And apparently, I guess if I have this right, the Pope, I think, was actually letting him dissect bodies underneath the church because it was cold in there, and the church actually had a law against the dissection of bodies. It was against it was against the law for you to do that in Roman society at that time. But I guess the Pope was letting him do this underneath the Vatican, so he was letting him break the law to find out. And anyways, in the mirror in the Ancient Aliens episode, it talks about how if you take into account that because of his mirror writing, that uh, he was it kind of defined. They said it kind of defined him as an artist a little bit, so it's not out of whack to look at his pictures. I think there could be a mirror aspect to the paintings. So, what one professor did at Northeastern University is he took a mirrored image of each of some of his photos or some of his paintings, and then he looks at the hand placement. So the hands is going like this or pointing to a certain area, and he then takes the pictures and he mirrors them and he takes them to a focal point or middle point in each picture. And when you line them up, they start to create these alien-like faces. Or I don't know, back in the day they might have called them demon faces or something, or alien, I don't know. But there are these symmetrical faces that look like alien type faces or whatever. And it's very interesting, you know, was Da Vinci saying stuff with this, and uh, some of the faces take place in weird locations too. Like some of them take place like half a face or whatever. So okay, faces themselves are symmetrical. You could potentially create a symmetrical opposite, but I don't know the mathematics behind it. And but another one is like it's like a piece of like in the jacket or something, a cloth, and you line up the two cloths, the mirrored images of the cloths on each side, and it creates this perfectly symmetrical face. And that is like it's totally it doesn't seem likely that that took place by accident beyond the consciousness of Leonardo da Vinci. unless AI unless AI is figured out how to time travel and it was controlling Leonardo da Vinci's brain as he painted. But I guess that's way too far fetched or whatever. So I think Leonardo da Vinci probably had some sort of conscious idea about what he was doing when he created these mirrored images. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of all interesting. And so, why did he pick these particular faces? Did he receive the faces in a dream? Or did he actually see these people or these beings? And so, yeah, that's kind of interesting. So, yeah. So I guess the takeaways today is that I'm somewhere in the middle of the polarities of the high achievers and the guillotine. I'm somewhere in the middle of these people, and yeah. So I think a lot of us are. Uh, I guess I'll talk a little bit about like the idea that if we have some sort of revolt or something like Donald Trump's coming into office, I think that only I think it kind of what we've seen with Donald Trump is like it kind of empowers reactionary violence, and then you get into this situation where we're being martialized, kind of like World War II and World War I, and uh, I I don't know if it's that good. I think we need to just have level heads and say what we want to do and come. And I wish that we could have a situation where we had something that was like kind of peaceful movement, like in like a Martin Luther King kind of movement, and it just seems like nothing like that is taking place. I know that personally, I don't like going to protests anymore because it turned into like throw bricks at a cop or light stuff on fire or you know bust stuff up and things like that. And it was like they were piggybacking on top of like people marching in the street. And then also with the schizophrenia, you get singled out for harassment and everybody starts turning on you. Like, and this is where it gets into a little bit like the disappointment. Like, people, like, they turn your life around and they destroy it and they make it so that you can barely function, may possibly even giving you brain damage. And it results in you not functioning as well. And then at the same time, they're like, oh, yeah, they have these like absurd high expectations. And all schizophrenics talk about this. They place these absurd high expectations, like you're going to be a political leader or something, or, some ridiculous thing. Like it's not really in you to be these things. And, you know, and then when you don't fulfill their expectations of you, they're all disappointed. Or they think like if they torture you for 5 years, you're gonna want to revolt and overthrow everything and all that. And it's like, no, I just want to live a human life on this planet, and I want things to get better. I don't like the particular setup we have as a system. I think it needs a big change or whatever. But I'm not delusional to where I think like that is possible without some sort of massive violence, which probably will result in a reactionary counter revolution violence. And so, that's why I like democracy and voting and getting involved that way. But like, uh, yeah. So, uh, I guess this is day 16 of these videos of explaining me as a schizophrenic. And okay, I think I'm done.